Okay.
Orion, can you move the shield a little bit to the right?
Yep.
Thank you.
Better? You're welcome.
Yeah.
They're probably gonna come right. No. Pushing hard.
They hit the point of an ult. If they all make it.
Pushing through McCree behind. McCree low Discord. Get that McCree. Freeze one.
Okay, you're likely to win this fight. That Zarya is really high energy, and I think you guys have, yeah, you guys have a mercy, so one person can die, but like, you might as well not let it be you. There's no real reason to get this close to the Zarya. When you're here, what you could have done is just like boost to the high ground, or just stayed on your high ground. You either come here, or just stay where you are and try to finish them up. Let your tanks take the space first, so you're not trading. If this Zarya randomly gets 2 picks, because people are playing aggressive,
Freeze one.
they can win the subsequent fight.
Mercy next. Mercy Discord. Alright, pop through. I'm pinned. I'm out. Alright, we're down.
Nope, they're gonna win this fight. They had no reason to, right?
Reinhardt Discord.
He's down.
Sorry next. Sorry personal down.
So Zarya, especially when high energy, is both a tank and a DPS. If you don't kill her when her projected barrier is down and she gets another cycle of it, she will get a shit ton of value. So this Zarya just used ultimate. I wouldn't be surprised if she was already 25% to the next one.
Working on her.
And at the end of this fight, closer to 50 when she's being pocketed like this.
Oh, I'm dead.
So yeah, she's just going to carry this fight. And then their spawns are going to come in. So right now you have no one on the point. They have 4 on the point. We don't want to be moving into them anymore. We have tire, which is great. Our goal is to tire them as they come in for a proper engagement. We should be communicating that they're likely halfway to, like a quarter to half to shatter, and probably about 50% to next grab. Just based on what I've seen.
Okay.
But you need to come. You need to go back.
For 2.5 minutes.
Okay. Should be looking to set up our trap in somewhere that's meaningful.
Are we sticking
Going
to
up
the
here is
west
fine.
here?
The Hanzo forces off. We gotta be careful.
Alright, how you
We're
feeling?
spamming.
Alright.
Right now we're not doing anything useful. Like this sort of like repositioning stuff is stuff we already could have done. Actually being up here makes it difficult for us. So we have 0 mines right now. We'll get 1 here in a second to be able to use for maneuverability. But if they're running Hanzo, McCree, Lucio, Mercy, Ryan, Zarya. So if the Lucio moves them to here, essentially, and so the McCree's firing from basically where the X is, and the Hanzo's firing here, you standing here is a dangerous proposition. They are taking space away from your team right now, and if you only have 1 mine, you might not be able to get out without dying. And you are really valuable right now because you have the ultimate that will change the fight.
Pressure shield.
There you go.
Okay, Hanzo, right side.
Good ultimate.
Not careful. Alright, don't push out too far.
They've only got 3.
Yeah, you guys should be pushing up.
Working on Zara's shield.
I mean, if you guys are pushing up together, that maybe doesn't happen.
Watch for flanks.
Getting some good spam in. This is a good position in general. We don't have a trap placed in anywhere that matters, I think, right now.
They're not going to.
This is fine.
Watch out for charge.
They're just burning their shields here. Pressure on shield if you can. I don't know, I think spam is working.
Yeah, spam's fine. Okay, you could actually aim though. You're just kind of trying to time the mercy jumps instead of actually having your, like, if you had instead your cursor like up here, she doesn't get to move vertically in either direction to dodge your shots. She's forced to take a side-by-side approach, but right now you aren't aiming at her, really. Like, you get her anyway. He's fine. You can't really push forward because you don't have enough health to beat a McCree.
If okay.
We're back in a good position. Set up another trap.
Alright, that's good.
That one's a little awkward, but it's in a general area.
Goes back.
We're gonna have Tire for the next push. They should have problems. They need to be able to force us off of this high ground. So you have to worry. Alright. So what you really have to worry about. What you have to worry about is a Hanzo coming up and sitting right here and firing you off that perch. So maybe Trap is supposed to be up here to prevent that. He's the only one who can really contest you, and he really needs to if his team wants to come down main here. That's the biggest concern. That's how I see them getting an opening, other than blowing a bunch of ultimates. So long as you're cognizant of that's how they can test you, should be fine.
Alright, keep pressuring shield. Shield's already at half. He's just walking in with the shield up, and they're not really getting.
Yeah, he's not.
They're going to the right.
I think
Alright, they're going right side.
he's just leaving it out there.
Alright, yeah, they're all in there.
I thought I was expecting to one shot.
Yeah.
Have all.
Alright, I would look to use Tire now. Just use it.
Hanzo's half Discord. He's in the corner.
Just use Tire.
Zara's down.
You might not need it. Yeah, okay, you don't need it.
He's backing out.
But you should be looking to use this like as soon as possible.
We need to kill him.
Bolted tanks down.
Yeah. Oh, Hanzo's one. We can still capitalize on this here. They're. Oh,
But it's making some good calls. We're fine.
Alright, careful. They're gonna be coming back.
Okay. We're looking to set back up on high ground, it seems.
Work that shield.
There you go. Now playing up here does have its disadvantages in that you're not providing as much shield pressure on the Reinhardt. So in the event that they use Lucio's speed boost to close the gap, you're not contributing as easily. But as long as they're coming in slow like this, and or you have ultimate, you're in a prime position to like bully them out.
That Orion.
This is why like dive tanks are like pretty good on this point though, because this high ground position is really hard to
And they're
dislodge
gonna
if you're
have
not running
Grab and Dragon.
Diva or Winston or other people who can get up here. Or Hanzo's not properly scouting you.
They're going mid.
And you're just it kind of bothers me that you're just doing the same thing every single push and they're not punishing you for it. So they're almost in. I'd be looking to Tire immediately and have the rest of my team come clean them up for more ult charge.
That Ryan shield's low. He's half.
Shatter.
Discord Ryan.
Like,
Shield's
just use
down.
ult.
Sorry, team down. 3 on point.
Ooh, that's really dangerous. We seem to be winning without ultimates.
Ooh, push up, push up, push up.
But like,
Oh, this works each other.
okay.
Hanzo.
Discord's on him. Alright, not out too far.
Alright, back up. forward.
This consistently like crushing them without losing a member,
Response here.
without using ultimates is something that shouldn't happen against more organized
Well, 'cause
teams.
they're not changing their shield composition.
The problem
Ryan's
is
kind of-
like you guys are winning now, and that's great. The problem is though, the fight generally benefits the team that uses their ultimates first. There is an exception to this when two like Zenyatta's have ultimate, and the one who trances first is probably not the one who's going to win the fight. But if your ultimate allows you to be aggressive, and you get initiated on, if two Rhines have shatter and one of them gets their shatter off first, likely the fight will progress to a point where the opposing later shatter doesn't matter as much. The fight's more spread out. You're already down members, so fewer people can capitalize upon your own shatter, stuff like that. So for that reason, you really kind of want to make them commit to a push, or use important cooldowns and then use your ultimate, or use your ultimate as soon as they come in. For Junkrat, I kind of just want to use it on cooldown, and just no risk, because you build this shit really fast.
They're banking on their ults, I think.
Yeah, they are
Yeah.
absolutely banking on their
Because
ultimates.
they have a lot of ults, I'm sure.
Yeah, have they used anything? Oh, okay.
Now they're
Ooh, I wouldn't have done that.
ults, I think.
Yeah.
So I would not
They
drop
have
down
a lot
here.
of ults, I'm sure.
Yeah, they.
This is fine. But right here, if we toss a mine, I think we get the kill. So you can use your mine as sort of like a animation cancel here.
Oh, okay.
Now they're
Instead we drop, which is really bad. That McCree is behind us?
Full goal.
Tire. Huge pick.
hot darn it.
Lucio on point.
I didn't hear the tire go off.
Lucio's down.
We probably didn't need
Oh, you can get this mercy.
Why are we leaving her? Wait a minute.
Hot darn it.
Lucio on point.
I didn't hear
What?
the tire go off.
Lucio's down.
Alright, so they're down 4. Cool. We get a hit on her,
we
and then we just leave.
probably didn't need
Oh, you can get this mercy.
Yeah, you can get this mercy, and you're just not interested in like the ult
I
charge.
didn't hear the tire go off.
I
Okay,
still have my ult.
it's just weird.
So
Working
that's
shield.
terrible. Let's see.
Alright, you get the mercy. Cool. You do have to worry right now because they have a Widow and a Hanzo that being up here, if you're not cognizant of their positioning, will lead you to get a pick. It's not that big of a deal because their mercy is down. You have your own mercy still alive in case you do die. You have both the resurrect and the spawn advantage.
We can keep pushing on this.
There it is. Oh, don't jump.
Don't get picked. Don't get picked.
The Reinhardt's stuck.
Yeah. Okay. They would enough.
never mind.
Careful. Get back, guys.
Oh, he
You guys
wasted
stayed up
his
a little
ult.
too long.
No, I didn't.
You have some good spam coming in.
I should.
Yeah, they can't push anymore.
All right. Good.
They use Graviton. I don't know if they
All
use
right, we
Shatter.
almost have tire again. We can
Alright.
just have to hold them off. We're not doing
So we're not in a great position right now. Their snipers are starting to look main. We have issues just straight walking backwards. We might need to mine over the wall to leave, or we can go set up in our perch again. But peeking this main could prove fatal.
They
Hanzo's
used a lot
right
there.
side.
There you go. You realize it.
Pressure shield.
Get out a bit.
They still have grab though.
Alright, so where would Widow come from in this instance? Well, this high ground here is pretty good. There's also the railing, or the high rail to our left, which we haven't been checking, which I believe sees us where we are right now. There's, what's it called, a rooftop over here she could be used, or she could just be sitting main. She's probably just sitting main, but we can cover our bases by looking.
No, they don't.
Oh, they don't. They use the
Oh,
ult.
They use it.
popped.
We are really
Oh,
close.
wow, I
Reinhardt
didn't realize
popped
they used
Shatter
it
too.
so much. Not no.
We don't need to
letting
play
them
that
get away with
close.
so much
We
is
have
just-
tire. Alright. They're down 2. Let's push.
Got a widow up top.
Absolutely
I don't
push
know what
this.
They're gonna have next. This is kind of timed poorly for them. They're gonna try to. They're gonna have to rush. Oh, Widow main. She's half Discord.
Okay, we didn't push.
I don't think they're gonna get a proper fight.
That's fine.
They're going right side. I just saw Mercy.
Okay. Yeah, watch out.
All right, Zarya personal down. Nice wall.
Zarya personal down, she can be focused. Just use tire. Just use tire. Tire, tire,
Down.
tire. There you go. Consistent
Perez.
2+ man
Zarya,
tires.
Zarya. Pressure Zarya. Someone's behind me. Very nice. Good Mercy ult. Widow's down main.
Still
Careful.
up top. Nice.
There you go.
Where, so like
I definitely hear a couple times when we're not,
force them to
what's it called?
I think Slambulance- I
Coordinating
think
team
Slambulance
focus,
is
but it doesn't
actually
seem to matter because
free,
their healers aren't on point. And by on point, I mean, well focused. There's a Widow.
Must always have faith.
Alright, they have Widow? Okay. Alright guys, so just...
I just missed it. Okay, we're running this. This has some issues. This high ground map is, or this first point in particular, is really a good home for spam comps and people sitting on high ground. Goats can absolutely work here. You kind of rush to the point, especially if they're playing a high ground defense, and you force them down, and then you kill them as they come down, and then you win through spawn advantage and just general attrition. Genji doesn't really have a place in that. He wants to go off and do his own thing, but anyone left on the high ground can is being pocketed, and he won't have support for it. Diva at least eats the spam, and that's like her role is really important, and she can't really be replaced by someone else. It's to prevent you feeding a gratuitous amount of ult charge on the approach phase, as I discussed in my other video. So I'm not sold on the Genji pick here, but
Alright, they have Widow. Okay.
your comp is basically
Alright,
fine.
guys, so
Just might not match up well against what they're running.
Trap, don't get
They're running a
sprayed.
Widow.
Alright,
Okay.
just speed pass, let's go.
Show me this stuff.
Alright, I'm gonna amp as soon as you get around the corner. Everyone here, let's go. Go, right side.
We're saying go, but we don't know where we're going just yet. Are we going to point? Or are we speeding right high ground? I'm not sure just yet.
Inside, let's go. Okay, upstairs, let's push. Up. Everyone, let's go, come on.
Upstairs,
No,
upstairs.
Orion, you went the wrong way, man.
Alright, so we needed to discuss upstairs right, go. Because there's some miscommunication in the moment of where we're going.
The wrong one.
We gotta go this
Fight.
way.
Ooh.
There's a Reinhardt here by himself. Nope.
Yeah, they pushed this because they noticed we're split.
Alright, well, we're
Take the fight.
right here with that Reinhardt. We got back up the point. We gotta. Let's go. This fight's either gonna go well or not. Let's go. Back up the point. Come on.
I'd probably take that fight because you see where the Widowmaker is and where their Junkrat is. They were not like Widowmaker can maybe see part of the fight, but this Junkrat is completely incapable of doing so. So taking in that stairwell might benefit you just because they aren't really terribly positioned well for that fight. Your Moira healing and your healing here from Brig would kind of pretty much benefit you well enough that maybe you can trade 2 kills and come back faster. There is an issue that you don't have your Reinhardt and they have theirs, so their Reinhardt needs to die real fast in order for this to work. The other alternative is for you to see immediately, this Junkrat is way the fuck out of position, and your Brigitte with her stun up, and your entire team is next to you with speed boost on. So if you guys jump onto him and you can prevent him from mining away by stunning him, he should just die and suddenly this fight is winnable.
They're not gonna contest you coming back. So on point.
Heading back.
Going
There's his
after
Junkrat
Widow.
here. He's alone.
No one called the Junkrat until just now. Like,
Coming.
this is when we're first aware of the Junkrat at 322.
They're not gonna contest you coming back. So on point.
Heading back.
Going
There's his
after
Junkrat
Widow.
here. He's
Junkrat is called at 314. 7 seconds later, like,
Oh, Widow's up
it's
top.
just not.
The Junkrat's down. I got him.
There seems to be a general not awareness of where we're going. Swap to Widow. It's
I
fine
don't
here.
think we could have backed out there if we wanted to, though. So
You guys got picks. This is winnable. Get back. Using a hook there means you don't actually have sight lines. So you need to know. You need to look up here. Their Widow is down. You have free fucking reign. You can do whatever the hell you want right now.
out there if we wanted to, though.
And so when you hook here, when their Widow is down, it means you can't get here or you can't get onto stage to actually provide support to point. So your goal right now should be to get to like the under arch if you're going to hook here. So you can either get to like that main archway and sit yourself under it so you can actually see point, or you can get up top or you can get to stage. Either way, you need to be contributing your DPS to point because now it's a trickle fight and it's going to come down to team focus and mechanical skill. But instead we're going to waste time looking up here when she's not there.
Is that gone?
Remember, 2 are going to die for
Yeah,
it.
it's gone.
Okay, alright, so die on point.
Even if it's gone, right? We start a new approach phase, essentially. Your team's trying to get out, but you as Widowmaker are uncontestable until their Widow comes back. And if you sit up here, you can maybe get a good pick, or you can provide scouting information, you can prep for the next fight.
Good, they wasted an ult, perfect.
Instead we're doing it from down here.
Oni, come on.
Alright, she's starting to come back. We're looking for angles. We're no longer checking
Alright,
where
alright,
she could
I
be.
thought you were trying to get out, I'm sorry. I was speeding it. Alright, we're still waiting on one. Back up, don't waste shield.
Alright, so an issue I have right now is that their Widow should be back any second. We're kind of standing invisible range of these guys, and if these guys are doing their job properly, they're communicating your position constantly. So, in this instance,
Alright, we're still waiting on one. Back up, don't wait.
like here, if they're communicating your position, and they're holding this shield up, guess where the Widow can come from and kill you uncontested? This high ground. That's the nice thing about running Orisa or Rein here, is that it's really hard to contest a defensive Widow from the ground, so your only option is to be up here, essentially, or wait for your team to commit. Wait for your team to force their Rein to look in a different angle. Now, the defensive Widow has a lot of issues of her own, which by no means disqualify her, but if she's running a Widow v Widow duel as the defending Widow, she has to win every single duel, and she has to also contribute to the main fight while keeping the enemy Widow down. And since there's very few angles also for her to be, in addition to you, it can be really tricky to continually win that and not just kind of lose it when you're running something like this. So right now, they should know your positioning, and so if you have to be wary of when this spot here is shielded, that she can just appear there whenever she wants and get a quick pick on you.
Windshield.
And we just kind of play with it a little bit. We look for a pick, we wait for him to drop shield.
Like, what percent?
We're at 2,000.
Okay, everyone here? Okay, amping around corner, let's go. Get in. Oh, okay, I'm there.
Okay. So, you guys were trying to coordinate something to the right. Boat mode was either in front of shield or Reinhardt was in front of shield. Not really sure which. We try to get a nice hook shot up here. It's a good attempt. I don't know if we knew she was there coming in.
Okay, amping around corner, let's go. Get in. Oh, okay, I'm there.
It doesn't seem like we noticed it. We didn't know she was there until we hooked. And then once we hook, our crosshair is a decent bit off of where we think she's going to be. So it seems like we're aiming for someone on stage. And then we realize she's there, and so we commit to a shot. Okay.
Sorry, I went ahead of shoot.
She peeks us, we get a good kill. We're gonna get forced back
Okay,
though.
I come back faster than Widow. Wait for me and we're gonna push it on that, okay guys?
Seems fine.
Just don't
Our goal right now is just not to
take any
die.
poke, don't poke them at all. Oh shit.
Or if we're going to poke, like, we should not all be from the same sightline. So this Junkrat is just going to spam the majority of our team down this angle. If we are set up on the other side of point, or the other side of this choke, then we are taking a slightly different angle than the one our main team is going. So either we are not going to be hit by the Junkrat spam as we go to peek these shots, or the Junkrat will be spamming us and therefore not our team upon the approach. That's something we can do.
Okay. You guys ready?
I don't...
Oh, darn. I got stuck
he's
in
down.
a trap.
Okay.
Do we have a mercy?
Yeah, you can go. I can get there fast enough.
Alright, everyone in the room, let's go.
Alright,
Let's go.
their Widow's coming back.
Okay, upstairs.
Oh, you see him right there. Did you not realize that that's the Junkrat? Here's the Junkrat. If you can kill him or his tire, like as it's spawning, you have a huge leg up in this fight.
Oh, they're gonna. Oh no.
There you go.
Got it.
Nice. Okay.
A little delayed, but we get it.
Come up.
Their Widow should be back. There it is.
Oh, they're gonna.
This is
no.
the like scouting problem. Our team right now is not in a position to assist us. We're not drawing pressure, or they're not drawing pressure, so our decision to peek here is a little misguided. We turn it into a mechanical battle against a person who has perfect information, and we're not aware of where they are. So she's essentially looking down this hallway right now and has her crosshair placed exactly where our head will be when we peek. So if we're going, we basically have to be a little bit more deceptive. Like right now, if I'm going to peek here early, I'm going to hook up and use an elevator shot. I'm probably not landing on this platform, so I am a little concerned. But if that elevator shot fails to work, then we don't have our hook for the seconds when our team is actually contesting point. So maybe our goal instead is to just wait and delay. And we're just going to sit here, wait for our team to be in position. Once they actually commit to a fight, we first peek lower to check that high ground. And if we don't see her or we kill her, then we hook up to contribute to the point itself. Like, I think that's what I'm looking to do. And if they can call out positions of the enemy Widowmaker, that makes my life so much easier. But instead,
Got it.
Nice. Okay,
they have
come.
perfect
Come
information.
up.
They're like partially shielded,
Come back.
and we get picked. I'm not sure what our ping is, but I feel like between the Junkrat tires I've been witnessing and that kill that was almost behind a wall, that we're running at something like 100 ping.
Up, hold shield here.
I can't really tell,
Go in and
which
out.
is
All the way around, all the way around, all the way
I
around.
got grab for this.
which
as
sucks a
well.
little bit.
Yeah,
Down here, guys.
go
Come on.
in.
You guys can win this.
Down here.
You have
around,
so many
all the
ults.
way down. Okay, that works too. We're dropping down, guys. On
Alright.
Zarya. Zarya,
Zen's alone,
Zarya.
on point right here, left.
Okay, get Zen.
Ooh. Ooh. We're not really contributing, but like, we very well could have.
Got shattered.
That was close.
Mercy, she's half.
Oh,
And he's healing.
Like, I don't fault you really for shooting the Mercy a little bit. I think you could have realized that. Where is the Widow right now? It's really tough for me to see. There she is. She's on the ground. So right now, she is not holding this space, which means us up here is not being contested. We can take the high ground or we can take stage. And we can start contributing to team focus fire and point. In fact, if she's allowing us to get to stage, we can stay out of range of this high ground area by playing like behind this pillar and still perfectly see most of point. And then contest when necessary. We seem to realize that and we press in.
Mercy, she's half.
oh,
And he's healing.
But we need to hit these
Mercy's
shots.
in the middle of point. Mercy. Zarya next. Zarya's half. Zarya's low.
There you go.
Zarya personal down.
Yeah, and we kind of stay in a position where the Widow will eventually find us. But I don't even know if that's a mistake, since we were trying to contribute to point, and killing the people on point at this point of the fight is way more important than killing the Widow. So right now, the Widow's team's only option of winning is if the Widow entirely pops off here, and it's really difficult. It's kind of a race to kill the last person on point until the Widow pops off, and as soon as there's no defenders on point, the Widowmaker's efficacy will drop significantly, as everyone will be aware of where she is and be able to line of sight her and just take a general defensive stance that doesn't let her be effective. So she now is forced to either die on point or try to retreat and live and set up for next. She should probably just die on point. She can try to, I don't know what, I wasn't really keeping track of the kill feed to the point where I know when their respawns are coming in. I imagine they have Junkrat alive. I don't know where he is in the process of returning to first point, but it is somewhat possible that they go for a recontest here last second with like a Junkrat tire or something. So to that end, your death is detrimental, but I don't think it's too bad. Like, your spawns should be coming in pretty fast here.
Where's this Widow? Watch Widow.
Boat mode should not be even playing with this shit. Boat mode should be sitting here. Just no dancing, no nothing.
back.
Stay out of line of sight. There you go.
Me and Oni are heading back. Hold it.
Zen on point.
Alright, she's
Ooh.
talking, I think.
I don't think we knew their Widow was down. Judging by the way we didn't notice last time. So we could already be looking here. It's unlikely for her to be watching us necessarily rather than point. But like, if she's anywhere, she's on either of these high grounds right now. because it was called that Zen was on point. And if they win this fight, it's because their DPS on high ground pops off, or they have like a nice Junkrat tie or something like that. So we could be pre-aiming this platform as it comes into view, or communicating with our team to ask what's going on. Because right now, I don't know if it's because your recording software doesn't pick up your mic, but I have not heard you say one word here. I'm trying to recall the third-person VOD. I don't know if you speak very much.
Alright, she was talking, I think.
Get this Junkrat on point.
Jumps down.
Now we're looking up there? Yeah, see, we're not paying attention to the kill feed whatsoever. There's no one up here at all. Like, their Widowmaker died as we were coming through gate. The real sightline we should be looking for is to their main for people trying to get out. Or setting up here for like the next push, or pushing up ourselves.
Alright, we got grab
Oh,
blade.
that guy DC'd.
Try to
Alright,
take
let's
this
speed
one
up.
quick.
Oh,
No, wait, that guy
oh no,
DC'd.
they gotta pause. Okay.
You guys didn't reset the map.
Oh, what the?
We have grab.
So,
We start winning.
And
Okay.
everything.
So we're just gonna speed right on and force them to engage us, like right there. Grab or
Okay, we gotta look at compositions. I don't know what their Widow will end up returning to as. Against your team, well, neither. Okay. So right now the defending team has not the greatest like nest control. Where nest is, or perch. Where perch is that spot you were running as Junkrat, essentially. That spot is really strong. Throw dive tanks up there, throw like a DPS up there, and it can be really difficult for a Rhine like that's why coming main is so rough, is because this high ground is accessible for the defenders and hard to remove for the attackers because you have to step inside in order to really contest it, or blow a bunch of cooldowns and commit like a composition for it. So they don't have anyone that sits up there except maybe Junkrat, if he wants to. But if he sits up there, then your Genji contests him, and maybe the Widow can see him on the way out. Your composition is fine, in general. I think you lack a lot of shield break, you lack a lot of damage, so if your Widow is unable to find a proper sightline, this doesn't do too much. Like, there's no Zenyatta, there's no high damage DPS like Hanzo. Genji's fine, but he isn't Hanzo, essentially. So right now you're banking on the fact that you're going to split the team, essentially, with your 2 DPS, and buy room for your tanks to do a whole bunch of work. And your tanks are being heavily assisted by a Lucio Moira. So, neither of your DPS get a ton of healing from either of these supports. So the Genji isn't looking to play like a backline flanker style so much as he's looking to play with his team in the front line, using his deflect as sort of a team damage mitigation rather than a way to win a duel. Should be looking to coordinate damage with whomever the Rhine is hitting while the Widow kind of plays off, and the Widow is kind of relegated to grabbing health packs or playing cover for her sustain options.
so that can kind of combo.
So
with
there's a little disconnect between what your DPS are doing and what the rest of the team seems to want to be doing. If you're instead running a Zen Mercy, like that sort of split doesn't matter as much,
With this area, I
or
should
just a
probably
Lucio
do with
Mercy.
a couple flame strikes.
He seems to be back.
Alright. Yeah.
So they're not contesting up here, we get to stand here.
Oh, Widow on the right.
Sorry, team shield down.
Call her out, we look her. Get picked.
Oh, okay.
But this fight's lost.
Okay, alright.
Back up. Any pick here doesn't matter. We need to not stagger ourselves.
No worries.
We already have our ultimate. We're not
We got
benefiting from poking anymore.
closer to 3.
I'm at 85% now.
You guys want to try pushing left side?
Okay, so where is their Widow likely to be? Well, we saw the Widow last time end up at Perch. We're this pillar area at the top here. I put it at good odds she's on right side like that again. There's a small chance she came up left to try to look for you when you were coming up here, but I don't think that's a position she'll maintain. She's probably on right side. We can confirm with walls here in a second. Team seems to be
Far left.
Yeah, let's go left.
going far left. Far left might be a little rough in that they have a Junkrat spam, and neither your DPS really benefit from going left. It does buy the Widowmaker room to go right side. If you can clear up here, you should be fine. But like,
I'm at 88 right now.
Not, I guess, you know, your cover, whatever.
You going right or left?
No, we're going left.
go left. Natten has license to play where he wants.
We're good. Let's go for
Okay,
it.
let's go. Everyone here? Let's
These
go.
walls.
Junkrat knows we're here. Come on.
Get a good pick, and then we immediately drop down. We just lost the positioning. We rightfully won.
Okay. Tires,
Like we
spread
could
out,
be
spread out.
contributing this entire time.
Wasted it.
Nice. Okay, let's go.
Sorry. Well,
This positioning is so much worse than where we were. So now we're even, as their Widow is spawning in a 2 CP map. This is really bad for us.
well,
I don't know.
we got shattered.
They didn't drop shield for that.
I don't think this is winnable from a
Shield,
numbers
go, get on
perspective,
point.
but we do have a bunch of ultimates. We do have a shit ton of ultimates. So like you guys can turn those with Genji Blade and Graviton.
On point.
There's
Alright, there's-
Zen
You could already be looking where she's been hooking up to repeatedly.
There's
one that's
Zeno.
down.
Okay, so Grav and Blade.
Could be using
Down.
Right, we're down shield.
sights to find her. Yeah, hey, she's up there.
I'm ready. Whenever.
there's two spread out. There's two spread out.
Alright, we're down two now.
I would only get two.
Why are we afraid to commit our
And
ultimates?
I think it would be okay.
After losing Ryan, you think so?
We lost Reinhardt.
Yeah, we lost Reinhardt.
So what are we gonna do here now? Nothing really.
Okay, so
We're just
I
gonna
actually-
give their Zen ult charge.
I agree.
You do not want to peek right now. You are discorded. That Zen knows exactly where you are.
I'll wait.
Alright, let's plan to use those next.
I mean, Zen will be
There's
down
the
for this
Widow.
one, so.
Yeah, exactly. So. Alright, Natten, you ready? You almost in position?
What?
We're
You're
gonna
just
go
gonna
down
let the
mid.
Junkrat peek you like that?
Where we wanna
let's,
go?
let's try mid again. I'm gonna amp
Mid
on
with a
point like
boost.
last time.
Yep,
You
let's
ready?
go.
Okay. As soon as you turn the corner, put the shield up, I'm gonna amp, okay?
Yep.
Use
Going,
walls.
let's go. Everyone on point.
Alright, see, our team is ready to push in and we just fell down, so we're no longer able to help them aggress. We are hooking up here, which is cool, but I don't know if we've actually confirmed where the enemy team is.
Alright, sorry, team down.
We're not quite accurate on that, which is a shame. Should just be looking to contribute damage whenever. Our entire team is hitting the Reinhardt right now. Let's just hit the Reinhardt. We don't need to worry about this high risk, high reward play of killing the Valking Mercy. If she's good, which she's not cognizant enough to play out of our sightlines, but say she is, staring at her from behind a wall isn't going to contribute to the fight. Instead, we can out DPS her measly 60 heals a second and just kill the Reinhardt with our team. The focus fire is way more important than trying to get this pick. We also have to be a little worried about where their Widow is going to end up being. We might want to instead contribute to where a soldier might be here on bridge. So we have a mega to retreat to until we confirm who they're coming out as.
Reinhardt. One.
Team is calling Reinhardt, and neither DPS is actually even concerned with it. This is the kind of lack of focus that kills your percentage game, and lets them come in staggered.
He's down.
Mercy's alone.
Alright, I think.
No, she got her.
On the right
Okay,
side.
spread out for tire, spread out.
Your goal right now should be less looking at the Widow and making sure the tire doesn't wipe your team. In my opinion. I don't know if that's something everyone else will share. Thankfully the tire got, and the Widow is just completely oblivious to us.
10, 10, 10.
Good kills.
Steven, look back low.
decent crosshair placement. We hit the shots. We didn't reset map.
Alright.
Nice.
Good job, guys.
That's fine.
Speed, we could have used it.
Did relatively well there. 3-minute break for bio. Okay. Two. Speaking of Discord. Yeah. Yeah, we'll get there. It's BSN.
What, say that again?
What did I do, Bia? Let's see what we got.
Yes. I know it
Okay.
sounds diva and you want to be Winston.
I mean, no, go ahead. I mean, like, this is a learning experience, right? So,
Yep.
go ahead and just
Alright.
do your dives and I'll follow up on whatever you do.
Alright, sounds good.
Unless you jump off the map, then I'm not following.
Yeah, yeah.
Alright. So we're being pocketed right now. We're running Mercy with dive tanks and a Widowmaker. Widowmaker is very good on at least the first point. It's pretty good defensively on the second point, so it's probably pretty good offensively on the second point. And then third point, he kind of breaks down a little bit. I'm not worried about our composition. We are aware
I appreciate that. Okay.
of a Rhine and a Widowmaker.
Reinhardt, I'm assuming is already they're playing high ground.
They're shielding that shit. We're not gonna get a good angle, so we just need to be patient. Yeah. We reveal ourselves 4 seconds before they really are supposed to have that information. We can just play slow.
All right, let's try to push
We might be sonicked.
far right.
No
Right.
pressure.
They have a far too.
Farah? Discord
Oh,
on
I
that
got pulled
Farah?
off.
Alright,
Alright, they have Rhine, Junkrat, Farah Widow. We're just kind of waiting right now. We don't need to do anything.
alright.
Repositioning's good, but it's still going to be shielded from the same angles.
Are they moving?
No.
Can you guys try to keep
Alright, so this here was good positioning. We limit the window from which they can see us. We get to focus on one narrow angle, so we're not returning fire. In a second here, when the fire peaks over window, we're going to sit here, which opens up this window for them to see us. So we're still in the enemy Widow's line of sight. So this is Farah in a second. I don't know if we're doing it consciously, but we end up using this pillar as as cover against their line of sight. But I feel like it wouldn't be too difficult to mess it up and let their Widow see us.
we gotta get on this card. Alright, are they moving? No.
So like this is good, this is good. And then we happen to jump in for some
You
reason.
guys try to keep okay, tanks at least keep,
Yeah, see how she spotted us immediately?
keep cycling the cart
Alright, going
to
in.
move it
Keep cycling the cart doesn't make sense on offense.
until we get okay, discard Farah, she's shooting
She's
down
one,
on me.
it's a good angle.
There's a
Discord's still
Reinhardt
on far.
alone on the payload.
But you notice here that like here's their Widow, like right here, where that's the angle she's looking for us at. And so we're peeking that angle while focused elsewhere. Like you don't have to win the Widow duel in order to win the map. But if you're not focusing the enemy Widow, you have to be pretty sure that she's unable to focus you.
Farah, she's shooting down on me.
And she just happens to miss that shot. Like that could just cost you the fight right there.
There's a
Discord's still
Reinhardt
on far.
alone on the payload.
But we get him. He's down.
Alright.
We now have so much room and we need to contribute more. So as soon as we get that pick and we notice our team is entirely playing around the corner, we need to find a way to influence the next phase of the fight. That might be walking onto point and sitting here. That might be shifting to a flank position to hit people here. That might be hooking up to here or hooking up to here. They each have their own individual advantages and disadvantages. So let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's talk about the different ways we can go and contribute. I'm going to one will also there's another one. There's 6. But it's cheeky, I guess. 6 will involve like essentially spawn camping the enemy widow, which I don't think is necessary. So the advantages of 1 is that it's very direct. You won't have high ground positioning, so if the fire comes over this wall, you won't have great sight lines on her, but it lets you contribute to anyone who's still in line of sight here. You're playing with the same sort of angle that the rest of your team is, which means you won't be able to see anyone who's hiding from your team, but you at least be able to follow up on their damage a little bit. So I don't really like 1, because you're not taking an alternative angle, but it's really safe, and there's little to no risk involved with it. 2, I think, is a better version of 1, in that you see basically the same angle from up here on the high ground, with the exception that you can see a Pharah who comes over this sightline. It's also a little bit safer in case the Pharah is over here and tries to like dive bomb you, because if you're on the ground without your hook here, you could have issue. Now the nice thing about 1 is you don't have to use your hook to get into that position, where 2 you have to. So you can be surprised without your hook. Number 3 is a more aggressive version that is looking to set up on this window here. It will contribute heavily to getting people as they retreat, and maybe contributing a little bit to cart, while also seeing Farah if she's lingering up here. It won't be able to see anyone on the corner because the lip like protrudes out, so you won't be able to contribute that way. But maybe you can find an angle to the back line. 4, I think, is a worse version of 3. You can like go down the steps and see people on an angle, which honestly isn't bad. It just requires a little bit of setup. And unless your team wins in front of the cart here, your angle is bad. Like if your team pushes them into your sight line from like this doorway, then you can do a lot. If they don't and their team pushes into you, you're kind of stuck walking forward behind their team, which can put you at a real disadvantage as the fight progresses. But I don't think 4 is bad. 5 has great sight lines. You get to see the majority of the fight. The main risk is that it takes a while. So right now you're up in picks. You're up in vantage. There's right now a 5v5 going on without you in your current position. 5 delays or extends the fight in a 5v5 without you until you reach a proper position. That position is really strong, but if the fight turns while you're not there, then it's an issue. So 6 is a long flank all the way left side, either resulting on the ground or similar to where 1 is, or going all the way around to the Mega to start picking off people who are spawning and like spawn camp the Widowmaker. 6 is not contributing to this fight. It's leaving this as a 5v5 almost entirely. And instead, it's looking to set up the fight after, or you're essentially saying that the fight on cart will contribute so long that this respawn matters, and that I want to get an advantage before that, and we're going to get on a deep fucking flank. We're going to essentially look to hit them from, like, if here's the 1 window and here's the Mega, there's another gap here, and we can hit them there. We're looking for, like, the deepest of flanks on them. Or we can even like set up on the high ground that's out in the courtyard out here. Like we are going on some long reconnaissance mission. So of the ones I like, I think I like 5 because it's really strong if we manage to get to it. I don't mind this position, and I think this one is also really strong. This one is cheeky. That like you like hook up here and then you descend down the stairwell to get an angle. It relies on you mechanically hitting that first shot before they call out your position and invalidate it. but should be fine. My biggest concern is making sure that we're controlling the Pharah's space as much as possible. To that end, this one has the nice benefit of both controlling the space and having like an advanced position to this window that's right here that overlooks most of the courtyard and can work to control her space. There will be an issue in finding that space when their Widowmaker returns that this one doesn't quite deal with, so this is like a tempo play, and that's kind of what I'd be looking for.
Coming down.
Alright, we end up choosing this one. We see the positioning. You see, we're looking way back here, which is fine. There's the Pharah. We get to control her because she's not playing aggressive. She is conceding the space to your team, but she's not doing so in a way that lines of sight you. So if instead, and here's the window I was talking about once, if she's instead playing over this building out of your sightline, then you can only really see her from this sort of choke. If she's just going to stand in the middle of the goddamn sky with no cover whatsoever against an enemy Widowmaker, then she's just going to lose. So this is really poor positioning by the enemy Pharah, and you punish it well. The Pharah could also easily just be standing on like the edge of this building and spamming down into the choke, which is another reason why I kind of like this one. But it's actually better punished by this one that goes down in here. So long as you mitigate so long as you mitigate their Widow and their Pharah, you should be fine. So their Widow should be about back now. We are looking nowhere, essentially. Their Widow is likely going to hook up here or be low on the ground here, and we're not looking there right now.
Back up.
Oh, we almost get a pick. So we have places we could be right now. So we're on payload, which is not awful. You know, we're not throwing by doing this, but we could set up for the next fight. So your goal, you seem to have in mind that you want to be here. You want to be over here, so you're looking down this sight line. I don't know if that is correct. You're not running a shield tank. They're going to be shielding from the same angle that you're basically approaching, and they're going to have a lot of good sight lines on you as the enemy Widowmaker. They can sit on bridge comfortably and find you. They can sit up here and see you pretty easily, and your paths of retreat are just limited to like this box, and like this wall here. There's no real additional place for you to go if you're spotted here to get a better angle, and that's kind of my issue. Instead, I think I like swapping far left to the Mega, looking for that spawn or spawns and trying to hit them from the off angle and trying to get a pick or two. Like if we instead go out to sort of like the river here, then we have a wonderful sightline of this bridge and people trying to contest from that angle. We might get a pick, which completely makes this into a stagger fight, which would be fantastic, especially if we surprise the enemy Widowmaker. We have free reign to do whatever we want. Instead, we're just playing with our team, which is fine. It reinforces an angle we already have. It's safe. It's fine. It's good.
No, he was fine. He hit a corner.
But this is kind of what I'm talking about. Here's the shield there. We're minimizing the angle that they can peek us right now, so that's fine.
Discord on their Zen.
But we need to be hitting the shots. Did you see that, Widow? Did I see that, Widow? Yeah, there's someone up there. And that's Widowmaker. Oh, that was quick. We noticed it. Cool.
Discord on their Mercy.
So we should be calling that out.
Mech back.
Ooh, our hook sensitivity is pretty high.
Gonna take down.
And the problem with our retreat here is that we know there are Widowmakers like here. Alright? She was previously seen as the window. The Pharah is like immediately above right now. And look at where like the Pharah should be like their Widow's half. And we're still in, we've been in sightline of that thing the entire time. We instead hooked backwards. That's not as much of an issue.
I'm just gonna take down this Widow here.
And we're not even People aren't communicating where the Widow is.
Discord on
Fair's
far.
low.
Yeah, she's going in. She's gonna
We
come out
haven't
left here.
contributed to
Got
this
her.
fight yet. Got 2 picks.
Alright,
It's fine.
push up on them.
I like our positioning in that we won't get shattered.
Shattered.
Wow, that climb.
But we need to start contributing to this fight.
Shit.
Can we get 10?
That was my own fault.
I already did.
Beautiful. Discord.
So you can largely ignore the Zen. Or the Reinhardt.
Oh, damn it. I really.
We're just not hitting shots right now. Ooh, that was close. Just machine gunner. Yeah. Alright, we're moving close again when we don't really need to.
Heading back. We got all.
Discord far.
We've just been kind of lurking here in the courtyard for a bit. We just stopped hitting shots, which is kind of rough. It happens at times. Their spawns should be coming in. We could be looking at river again. If we wanted to. But unless we're getting headshots on these tanks, we're not terribly effective.
Reinhardt's low. No, he's back up.
We're not forcing them back.
Discord on far.
Yeah, I don't know what she's doing.
Alright, Zarya next. Zarya personal down.
We have walls.
Zarya low. Okay, Reinhardt next.
They used walls. Use it. There she is.
Got Mercy.
You both have
Right here.
walls on each other.
Oh, she got out.
I would just line of sight her. You're like down in ping, and the game has an issue where like
Got Mercy. Right here.
so in this instance, she doesn't exist for you. Our crosshair placement is generally good, but there's a non-zero chance that our head is actually peeking out before we can actually see her. That's kind of the disadvantage, being closer to the corner that you're peeking than your opponent in this game, where they get to see you first and shoot you first. Just like, even if your ping wasn't an issue here, which I think it still is a little bit.
Right here. Oh, she got out.
And we just missed that shot there.
Shatter.
Oh, Widow behind.
So the Widow gets to do whatever
Careful.
and carries the fight off of it.
Healers down.
Okay.
I got the healers out. Up.
We have no healers
Right,
though.
give it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, that
I'm
was
jumping off. I'm trapped here.
that one.
Actually, there's a back route. I didn't even know this.
We do nothing by shooting shield besides reveal our position. Their Widow now knows where we are. Once she's done fighting here, she'll probably take a stance like this. In which case, we are a little vulnerable. We can maybe get the Zarya if we hit this shot. We don't. Instead, looking at the Reinhardt. Reinhardt doesn't care. Reinhardt's just gonna keep shield up.
Alright, let's lay it on. Wait on
Shooting the shield down, but like, our team isn't really interested in shield break to regardless. Ooh, okay, we're leading the charge now. Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
We're looking still for the Reinhardt instead of checking the higher
Alright,
grounds
go back, let's
first.
go.
We're just constantly revealing our position, waiting to get a headshot from behind shield.
Zarya's one
Here's
side.
the Widow.
Push through left here.
We lost track of her. I'm going to turn the sound way up so I can hear what you hear.
Zarya's left side.
Push through left here.
She was lurking up there the entire time. Okay. That's rough.
Discord Zarya. She's
I don't think there's much you can do about that. Unless your team was able to scout it.
Zarya's on me. I'm low. Zarya personal down.
There she is.
Widow's on high ground. Careful.
I like this peak.
I don't know if you can dive that.
Seems fine.
Coming back.
But we haven't contributed to too much. Yeah, we lose that. Okay. We just stopped landing shots. And our angles were awkward in that, like, we didn't have many places to go where they had a lot of sightlines to see us from. And so they're able to play carefully away from us. Essentially.
Alright, so we have to hold basically just the entirety of first point.
Yeah.
Do we want to? I mean, they've just been running Ryan Zarya. Do you want?
Did we not reset map?
Yeah.
We did not reset
God,
map.
right.
Oh, this is gonna be not fun.
And
Yep.
to have our DPS up on high ground, like up here behind us, you know?
Alright, we're running Junkrat Hanzo. We're running heavy spam from what I saw.
No, I kind of like that better.
Spam's pretty good on this map. Generally though, I've seen it set up here on this high ground or on this high ground. So that way you're really forcing the issue on this bridge, and Orisa can like pull people off of this bridge. Also, if you stand on the lip here as Orisa, or maybe even the lip here, you can actually contest payload from above it, which is one of its major advantages. Also, if your shield goes down, you line of sight them a little bit better from that high ground.
Where they are at. So.
And if you're on like this high ground, you can see people coming across bridge a bit easier. Because right now with this high ground, you don't see the flankers coming this way as easily. So they're already in position and you're all focused this way for people behind you. I don't know. This high ground is fine.
Yeah, we can't really.
We should be looking at spam in.
We gotta be further over to the left on next
Hello?
use.
Where's everyone? What are you doing?
We're not really
Where are
pressuring
they?
out here.
Where are they indeed? They're not pushing. They have 0 people in payload. To me, this screams they're goatsing or doing something cheesy, and they're setting up some. They're coming one of the side paths. So your goal right now is to find them, and you're not doing that. You're just kind of waiting.
They're
Hey, here I'm on the
probably
left.
pushing left.
Hey, we realized it.
They're
We
all
dropped down. If they were paying attention, and they should, because you just got discorded, you die here. Like,
left behind us. Genji behind.
yeah, like it took longer than it could have, but like we just get punished for just splitting ourselves from our teammates.
The trace.
They're probably all
Like,
pushing left.
why do we even drop? They're not doing anything. So like, yeah, they're gonna get the kills here, but like they could be getting free. Like their Zen doesn't have to be here. Their Zen could just be pushing payload essentially right now. Our decision to split here is really awkward, especially when we're discorded.
They're all left behind us. Genji behind.
It seems like we were trying to rotate away, but we need to rotate away using our team as sort of like a pivot. And right now we're just separated. If we instead rotated in such a position that our team is still in front of us in a position where we can retreat to them, that would be preferred. Instead, yeah. We have a decent enough reaction to realize that, oh shit, we're about to die, and we're trying to leave, but...
There's a Genji on me. D.Va on me. Discord
Winston in
D.Va.
the front. Winston.
they're just not even pushing.
Oh, Winston's low. Genji on me.
You're down 1,
D.Va on me. Oh my god.
you're down 3. Okay,
Kept my life.
They're not even on
this
point.
fight's over.
We don't have healers. That's not looking good.
Yeah. I wouldn't even... You need to leave, because you can get staggered again.
Alright, second, we're gonna have to hold second point. No worries. We don't have a shield, guys, so careful. Winston's low, okay. Tracers, yep.
Alright, we're up. We can
Nice
push.
skill on Tracer.
Let's go, let's go, let's
Push
go.
up here.
Don't give them any more
Yeah.
payload. We're not doing it though. We pushed up, but they're still getting what they want, which is payload distance. That's their ultimate goal here. So if we're not contesting payload, especially in these advantageous positions, they can just take as much payload as they can do safely, and then regroup, and suddenly you don't have 2 fights. So like, if they can get up to here, they can turn this into a 1-fight game. If you had instead contested here, maybe you can get a second fight out of it. And you have the benefit of actually taking the fight, so you build ult charge here. Because right now they should be ahead in ult charge after crushing most of your team the first fight. You might have Hanzo, because your Hanzo like 8th or Winston alive. You should die. That is really egregious. There was a window in time when your team could have pushed up together. I think we're past that. And I think whether we live or die will depend upon whether or not the diva eats our mine or not to leave. She doesn't.
Discord Diva.
So we get out.
Oh, nice kill on Mercy.
It was a complete accident that we
Let's try
killed
to retake some
Mercy.
space here if we can.
Yep.
Okay.
Try to push-
Now we're a bit safer to do this because we have our team here essentially, and our tanks are pushing up to take the space with us. I hope you recognize the difference there. Even though we don't have the mine, like we don't have a mine to safely escape, but at least we can use just regular movement to fall down into our team. Like
Lord.
Yeah, right there. Oh, Winston's
right side.
drop shield like right there. Yeah, good.
we're still playing pretty up.
This is about where I wanted to hold first. All right, they're probably gonna try to go around behind us right side. Nice. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Stop.
Oh, okay. This is rough, man.
Right side.
They're not gonna pause.
Surprised they're not pausing. Yeah.
I don't know. You can't pause the game.
Did you get a lever?
Okay.
There it is.
What happened?
That's true.
There you go.
Okay, we're restarting defense.
Kind of
fine.
don't want to hold.
Have any?
They just hold it.
Oh, where are we? Oh, we're holding up here again.
All right, so
fine.
if
We don't have a trap set up.
they try that again, I guess what we should do is, I guess, drop down.
So the nice thing about trap is that even if it's not effective in actually getting you a kill right away, because you're not combining it with mine, it will at least act as a sensor. So if we had set our trap either in one of two places, either on like this flank, or try to do something on the payload, like we can use our trap either offensively or defensively. Offensively, we're looking to put it in a place where one of their supports or DPS are likely to step on it, and we get a kill, so we can aggress. Defensively would be using it as like a widow mine to cover one of your flanks, or placing it essentially at your feet for if and when they dive you, their tank steps on the trap and you die, and they die. Excuse me. So I think I like starting out at least to putting it on the flank, and then when we confirm like specifically this alleyway, and then once we confirm their composition and their direction, we can adjust the mine accordingly or the trap accordingly to where we want it. So if we recognize they're coming main with dive, we can then put our trap in the middle of our team to trap their tanks when they aggress, or we just leave it on the side here to catch the flanker, depending on what we want.
I don't really know.
If they're running death ball, then we can drop it to the ground.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So it seems like you had that idea
I guess drop down. I don't.
with your like underhanded toss here of it,
Because they were
but like
left all the way around behind us.
Yeah.
it's hard for that trap to be relevant. It's it requires them to like either flank around this way and then decide to approach you from this direction, or for them to come from this high ground and then try to approach you from this direction, or for the payload to progress to the point where you guys are fighting here essentially, but you would have already had the cooldown back. So like that trap doesn't do anything.
Again, or they're just gonna go
Yep,
straight
they
there.
are.
You have a widow.
They're playing slightly different comp, but they're playing dives too. They're going far left. Let's drop. Alright, let's drop down. Alright.
Yep.
What?
Bear up top. Nice.
Playing down with our team, we're looking to peel. That's fantastic. Good play.
Good job.
It's exactly what you want to do. Is spam, spam, spam. As soon as they commit to a dive, especially if they only commit the Winston and he's discorded, turn around, kill that guy,
Up or down to,
and you can clean up their
we
mobile
gotta watch
DPS
for
later.
flanks from around left, though. I guess that's
So it's a little unfortunate that we're running Junkrat here, in that their DPS both seem to be Widow and Pharah, neither of whom we line up very, very well against. So we're unable to really take strong positions. We're kind of forced to sit behind shield for the most part. It's unlikely that we're going to do much except for hitting whomever's jumping in, which can be effective, but it allows them to sort of dictate the pace of play. If we're instead of running Widow or Hanzo here, we at least have more pressure on their DPS, and so they're not free to take whatever position they want. Because right now, the Widow can stand wherever she wants. And really, your McCree is the only one who can deal with both their Widowmaker and their Pharah. Their Widowmaker is a little strained here.
I don't want Ryan. Can we hold this corner back here?
Yeah, that seems like a fine trap.
Yeah, second.
Okay.
But we're being.
Honestly, we can hold back farther because this one has
Yep,
two
there's the Pharah.
flanks.
Ooh,
Got a Widow.
we almost died. It's a little dangerous. There's the Widow. We realize that the Widow's behind us. We move to leave. Great. Good idea. Did you hear the hook?
What wins did he have?
We got Widow on point.
I don't know if we should be contesting her, but
Widow's up there.
she leaves, so that's fine. Hello, dog. In the background. Drop a trap at our feet in
Widow's
case
down
they
main,
come
careful,
for us. Okay. We're using
Sorry.
cover, using line of sight.
Monkey's
I'd
up.
probably just drop to our team right now instead of
one
maintaining
monkey
this high
has
ground, but
died.
like, we are perfectly safe doing what we are doing. And it's your decision was probably better than the one I was thinking. Because if we drop down, we give up this position and we're slowly forced back. If we maintain the high ground, we're at least able to pressure their positioning, like we're doing here. So this is fine. Yep, we're just being a giant nuisance. Alright, so Widow's looking at us right now. We're just not looking to peek her.
Nice.
This is really well done.
Careful for left flanks again.
We seem cognizant of opposing sightlines.
Bye, listener.
We
Thanks for
are contributing to fights.
Oh.
Mm.
Oh.
Yeah, I think they
Yeah.
thought that wasn't.
I mean, that was a pretty inconsequential pause. We weren't engaged.
Is that you?
Get set back up on the high ground if you
No, I
wanted to.
can't pause. Call out any
There's the
call out
Pharah.
flanks if you see them, please.
Yep.
Hit,
They're
okay.
still running both DPS, but they now have Orion Zarya, which means suddenly your poke is like way more effective, and you guys have a lot of shield pressure.
Did they change anything? No. Oh, Rhino.
Like I would probably just tire here. Win the fight.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm down. Sorry,
Yeah, we
guys.
did.
Oh, we're holding tire forever. And
Discord
now we're
Pharah.
no longer in a position to safely use it.
There's that shield. There's the shield.
Tire.
Oh,
Tire.
Widow's right, Widow's right.
Okay, so you're. Let's talk about compositions for a second. They're running. Do we actually see it? Do we press tab?
Call out flanks if you see them, please.
Yep.
Hit, okay.
I mean, I can recite it,
Did they
but
change
it'd be
anything?
easier if. There you go. We did. So they're running different tanks. Tanks that are more abusable by 1, 2, 3 of you. But adequate tanks to just push the payload. They're basically saying we're looking to force you to fight, and then our DPS are going to win because they're going to be harder to contest. That's a fine way to play. The thing is, like, this composition, it feeds off of each other. You have the DPS who initially open up space because they're hard to contest from range with your composition, which then lets these guys get on payload, and as these guys push payload, they open up more space for these guys, and they cycle it back and forth like that. So, you need to find a way to bully one of these circles, either 1 or 2. Now, you guys can't bully 1. Because your McCree is the only one who hits either of these at range consistently. So your option is to bully 2 as much as possible. Now, you can do that one of 2 ways. You can break their shield, or you can kill them, essentially. Well, I mean, break the shield will force them back and maybe kills them, but like using an ultimate to make sure that they're ineffective is another way to prevent them from pushing forward. So if no one is forced to contest the cart because their second group here is taken out of the picture, then everyone can play out of line of sight of their DPS. You see, it's like their DPS forces you to play certain sight lines, and their tanks force you to play vulnerable sight lines for their DPS. So they're sort of feeding off each other this way. If you use Tyre and just eliminate the Reinhardt, suddenly there's no one who can stand on point against your shield and spam, and suddenly their DPS can't do anything. Which is why, like, this fight goes on way too long when you have this ultimate. Or if you and both your tanks just take out their shield, it's much harder for them to do what they're currently doing. But instead, we're not really contesting the payload because their tanks are taking the space for free. Which means that their DPS get to play more aggressive sightlines, which forces your DPS back, which forces your tanks back, which means they get to repeat this cycle. But you can end it literally any time by just popping this ultimate. And that's what you should do. So we'll see it here again. We're playing the high ground still, which means we can harass their tank from a high line. But if we stand here to harass their tanks, we're opening ourselves up to the Pharah that's in the sky and the Widowmaker that's here. That's kind of the issue, is that we don't have the sight lines to properly play this anymore. At least early on, like, we could stay here to deny them this space because they really do want this space. But this space is more of a defensive positioning for us rather than a really aggressive positioning.
Oh, okay.
There goes the one. They have walls. Try to get that out. Notice they're starting to focus us. We leave at 2 health. That could have killed us. And you can see, like, since their tanks were taking the space, our Orisa was drawn into their DPS sightlines. And now this fight looks really bad for us. They have a higher energy Zarya, they have 2 DPS who are uncontested, they have a Rhine with a decent enough shield still, it's not even showing signs of cracking in the middle of it, and they've gotten it beyond this choke point. So now we're in the bad position. We're the ones sitting in courtyard with nothing but a shield and maybe like one of these pillars to provide support against mobile DPS who are going to use multiple angles against us. This fight is growing rapidly bad for us. And it's because we just don't use Tyre.
Shield.
Oh, Widow's
Yep. There's one of the flanks.
right.
And instead we're going to spend our time fighting it. Which isn't terribly effective.
Still
Okay.
right.
Okay, you know that guy's DC'd.
Oh, damn it. I did not want to do that.
But I'm mad this works. And it only works because the fire stops providing pressure.
Discord Pharah.
So there we are at 2 health.
With that shield. With the shield.
Okay, someone's calling to kill the shield. Our DPS goes down. Right. We're down to DPS.
Oh, Widow's right.
We instead stop contributing to this fight for a good, like, 10 seconds. As you can hear their Reinhardt say that his shield just broke. Right? This only works because that guy's DC'd. Hope you realize that.
She's still right.
Like, not just the kill, but the entire flank. Because he's DC'd, they don't know where he dies. And because he doesn't know where he dies, we get to go on a flank because they're not calling out the information. Like, right now, it's still even. And we build a bunch of ultimates, and we go on a flank here. Like, you can't... imagine that this works. And
Reinhardt's down.
Zarya right side.
the flank is really poorly done. Or really poorly thought out.
Push up on this. Take this.
It executed well,
That's fair.
but I don't think it was a good idea.
Really bad. Okay, back up. I needed to play that more carefully. I forgot.
Oh.
Well, here we go.
Yeah.
Z the
Oh,
Fox.
he sees go up with let's
Yeah.
in that's
Get more picks.
We have one more
afterwards,
fight.
delay a push for
We
you.
happen to have Tire.
Yep.
they begin the
I missed it. But because we didn't use that Tire, we could have won the fight entirely just using Tire. But it seems like instead we used 5 other ultimates to win that fight when they had a DC. Like, yeah, we still have Tire for this fight. That's great. But look at what we had to burn for that. So I'm pretty sure we had all of these other ultimates for this. So we'll check.
Are we?
That would jump.
okay.
Going backwards.
Call
There
out,
we go.
call out flanks if you see them, please.
We'll see it here. Let's watch this
Hit,
again.
okay. Did they change anything?
We had these two. Yeah, we used 5 ultimates that fight. Because we just didn't want to use Tire.
Greed is
This is kind of
It's not good.
well.
And we look afterward.
The team can they're on.
They're
That
coming.
Reinhardt.
I am not there, so I can't see what's going on.
They should have Shatter. I think they didn't use it. They might have Graviton.
All right.
They won't have Barrage because they keep resetting that guy.
They're
That
coming.
Reinhardt
shit.
might have Shatter.
Okay.
We don't discuss that they have Shatter until he's already essentially shattering.
Hey, that was the moment you should have used it already, dude.
We used Tire late in this fight. We used Tire as they've already gotten an advantage. So now we're playing catch up. This Tire has to be huge, and we don't have our Orisa or our McCree to take pressure off of this Tire. Or to contribute while this Tire is absorbing pressure. We get one with it,
You probably
but we
need to
lose
use
someone
it
else.
right
This
away.
fight's over. This fight's done. We lose this fight. Die on payload. Stagger them as long as possible. Good.
He's
Use that Tire earlier, and maybe this doesn't happen.
positive.
Use the Tire in the fight previous, and maybe you have 5 volts coming into this instead of just your 1. Like, something for your team right now. You can get another contestant. Absolutely. You just need to not stagger and not feed more. They're going to push this, or they should push this. Just leave.
Oh,
Yep,
Far's
there you go.
behind us, over
2
there.
die, because we didn't regroup.
Going.
That's gone.
It's up to Widowmaker. Widowmaker is fine here.
Not how come you didn't know? Why were you in a position where you were in front of their entire team? Alright, we're worried about it.
The way Boat is talking to you is not good. Questions like why basically should be served for VOD review, or like in between maps. They don't really do anything right now except to antagonize players. And based upon how that conversation went, I can't tell if he just asked you 2 questions or that long pause in the middle was when you responding, but your recording software not picking it up. It's hard for me to say. But this position you're holding right now isn't terribly strong. If you have, you're getting some poke in short. They're going to get payload distance just fine, and you really don't want to be on this bridge. You want to be fighting people who are on this bridge. So if they break their shield here, you have nowhere to really stand. It's kind of the issue. Nice pick. But like this position is a bit stronger in that they're forced to come across a narrow bridge and you're allowed to spam across them. You guys are going to look to generally fall back to the next corner as this
Retro
progresses.
shield if we can.
You could be playing at an off angle right now because they don't have a Widowmaker. You could be playing from either the high ground position directly behind you or up here. So that you and this shield, you are not playing at the same angle to the shield that your team is, essentially. You don't have a shit ton of shield break anymore because you are running McCree Widow, Your tanks are contributing most of the shield break, but it might benefit you in this moment to make sure that their shield goes down and contribute to that.
You weren't letting them get to us in part.
They have walls. They have, like, walls is 15 seconds. They get to see you until about a minute 42. So right now you should not at all be looking to peek this or this. If instead of where we're positioned now, we just hug this wall, we limit our ability to see this bridge, but we minimize our risk of dying to it, and we get to contribute to, like, this half of the fight. I think that should be our goal. Because right now she has the advantage of wall hacks, and she's not really contestable. Said we're looking for it.
Alright, that's fine.
Wow, okay. That was well done, though. I will admit that.
Alright, that's fine.
So what we did here, which was really nice, we caught her here. But we should honestly just kind of die. Oh god, the lamp actually saves us. We should die for lingering in this position. Because we're still inside of both of them. But as this plays out, we limit our exposure to just this window. And we have good crosshair placement. And she has really shitty crosshair placement. So like this is good in general, but the problem is they have walls for another 5 seconds, 6 seconds. You can't possibly react to headshot her if she already has her crosshair trained on your head as she comes around the corner. You will just die. So this is a great plan if she doesn't have walls. Like, this is great positioning if you know where you are and you're about to peek each other, because she doesn't exactly know where you are if she doesn't have walls. But like, this is very, very greedy, and I'm a little disappointed in the enemy Widowmaker for letting you get away with it. Like, let's see how long it takes for her to actually like fire onto you.
Alright, that's fine.
Look how far away she is. Like, you could die here. You could die here, 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 here. Instead, she continually walks out, so much so you can see a gap between where her head is and where the wall is. Your crosshair placement isn't perfect, but it's like really good.
Okay, that got nobody good.
And you can see the delay in registering. That's why I think your own ping.
Their Zen is...
We're discorded right now.
healed.
They have...
Ah, damn it.
Nice shot.
Sorry.
You could follow up on that.
Oh boy.
I'm not going
Yeah,
to.
I shouldn't have contested that.
Back up.
Their Zen shot me
And
better.
they backed off.
Fell to those railings.
Yeah, well, they're down a few also.
That could be a Sonic.
Coming back.
It's not,
Widow in the back.
but we decided we don't want to be there anymore. There's the Widow.
Back
Is
right.
he supercharged this fight?
And
Not
there's
like
not
most
actually a hook
immediately.
spot up there. Yeah. So now we've... I see what you're trying to do, so I'm not going to reprimand you too much for it. Because maybe if there's a window there, then you can contest their Widow. And I wish there was a window there for you to do that shit. I'm going to have to go soon, so this is going to be the last map. Okay. But we need to realize that our mistake has put us in a bad position and we need to rotate away from the fight. We need to rotate this way, because right now we are 5 seconds away from safety. For our hook cooldown. Okay, we do it fine. We're still in a bad position. We're lingering here, which is rough.
Alright,
You're going to continue trying to hit that guy. Don't really need to do anything special here. We're winning this fight.
Sorry, personal down. Let's get you.
Zang got me.
Can't say I saw him.
Sorry, personal down.
He sees us. He just happens to miss this shot. That's kind of the danger here. Like, we could have used walls in this situation
shield up.
if we really were concerned about winning the
Alright, they
duel.
backed off.
But their Widow's down. We should be pushing up. We can take this position up here. and start to bully this entire sightline while line of sighting anyone spawning if we need to. That'd be really strong. We don't do that. We're playing frontline Widowmaker, which is never going to get through that shield. We reset. Okay. The Widowmaker's coming up soon.
Like, man, but try to make sure you're getting shield up right away.
Yep.
But see how we're still playing at the same angle as the rest of the team? So we're shooting shield, and that's about all we're doing right now. What we could do, if we really wanted to, is keep our cursor essentially on the Reinhardt's head. And every single time he drops shield, he takes 300 damage. That would really put a lot of pressure onto him. Shooting the shield doesn't really do too much. Or we could put our cursor on someone else's head, and every time Reinhardt drops a shield, we get the pick. That's really your option here.
I'm just making sure. You know.
Oh. Where's that Widow?
The Widow keeps getting like these decent angles and then missing the shot that actually wins them the duel, and then you turn it around. That's not something you can do consistently.
Yeah, I don't know.
Good pick. I don't think there's a real reason for you to leave scope in this instance. It's just there's no one you're trying to dodge right now, but their snipers are dead. We should push this. We should push this.
They're gonna have to push on anyway with
Go.
this. Ooh.
That's a good ultimate.
Didn't go off? What?
Ooh.
Can't heal you.
I probably would have done the same thing.
Okay.
If he had... Like, you might as well use your ultimate now.
Zarya?
Use your ultimate, dude. Okay. Well, we gotta leave now. This is a good position.
Tracer left side.
Shatter.
Beautiful. Ryan's low.
Shoot the Ryan.
Super low.
Team fire. Team focus.
Tracer left side.
Shatter.
You shot him twice. You know he's low. You see he's really low here. I guess you're trying to body shot the Tracer because she's currently discorded.
Well, Ryan.
But like... Who cares about the Tracer right now?
He's low.
I don't know.
Ryan's super low.
It's like risk reward. Tracer getting the Tracer is like medium risk because she's hard to hit, and reward is not having a Tracer carry a fight, which is pretty decent. But like the Reinhardt, if he gets healed, can also start contributing a bit more. Now he just used Shatter, so like the risk isn't super high if he lives for long. But it forces the enemy team to play differently when they don't have a tank on point, which is really beneficial to you. And your team can clean up kills much easier if you have the shield and they don't. Essentially,
Tracer, Discord Tracer on point.
we're also not being contested right now, so we don't need to leave scope, and that's just wasting time. Essentially.
Discord Hanzo.
Ooh. We just like holding on to our ultimate.
What? I missed again.
What are we looking at? Okay.
Very
Nobody expects the hog from behind.
So I can try to look at Li Zhang later. But we're really just holding on to our ultimates for a long time. Our Widowmaker play is mechanically decent, good in terms of both crosshair placement, reaction, and shot placement. I think there are some game sense issues in that we're not taking sightlines that matter, or the sightlines when we're committing to a sightline, we're not necessarily using it to the max potential. If you're going to play behind your team's shield, then you should look to contribute to what your team is doing instead of doing solo work. If the team is bullying Reinhardt, you bully that Reinhardt. Don't try to get a pick through him and his entire team necessarily. As Junkrat, we hold our ult way too long. Some of her positioning is good. Sometimes, other times, it's like a giant feed, essentially. It's just you have to be aware of retreat paths. You have to be aware of the positioning of your teammates and who can peel for you in case they manage to get on top of you, particularly when they're running dive. Now, thankfully, they haven't been running too much dive from what I saw. So it's been mostly death ball, where you get to position as Junkrat literally wherever you want, because none of their tanks can come after you. And so your only concern is maybe a Widow sightline or a Pharah sightline. But like, you're getting away with a lot, I think. And we really have to be careful. Even against like the Reinhardt Widow Farah comp that we saw here in Rialto first point, we had gotten down due to our positional mistake down to 2 HP, and then were bailed out by both of our healers simultaneously. And then we dropped down and we lost the fight because we didn't use tire time. Like, you don't need to save your ultimate. You can use it basically as a cooldown. And well, I hope this helps.